to myself again, but it's the only way.
Liam, were you drumming away in the background there when the music was on?
No, did it sound like it?
No, it just looked like you were like, God, just
No,
seen
I was just dusting myself off, making sure I had any bits and bobs on us and out like that.
No crumbs and biscuits and that.
I was just sorting myself out. I do really enjoy the start music though. It does get us up for it.
Well, the good news is the Long Sands are coming back for a one-off gig in June, so we'll have to go to that, mate. I'll have to take you along.
That sounds good.
Along as we guest. I've got to thank newworkwear.com. Now, newworkwear.com were one of my sponsors back in the very early days, and Bozy, who is a lad who I've known for many, many years, owns the company, runs the company, and he sent me this coat, but he actually met me in town yesterday and dropped it off. Now, Keith Downey, who is, of course, standing outside St James's Park and the training ground on many occasions, is also rocking one of these coats. So I'd like to thank him for that. He just said, would you like one? He says, you've got a great platform. They used to sponsor us right back in the early days, and do you want to push it? And I think he's going to make one available, an NUFC Matters coat available in the chat to the chatters at some point. And I think what we'll do is we'll put it up for raffle, and we'll give the money to John from Jab's family. I think that's going to be the plan. So thank you for that, Bozy. Respect to you, mate. And I know that you were looking at doing some other stuff, maybe backwards and forwards. I was in a bit of a rush yesterday, but thank you for that, mate. I've added you to the ads. I've redone the ads today, so I've added you to the ads to give you a little bit of free promo off the back of that, because I've checked out the price of this coat, mate, and it is very expensive. So thank you for that, mate. Okay. As always, the chat is open. It's over to you guys. What do you want to know from Liam, the Oracle of Newcastle World? Morning, Steve and Liam. We'll be driving while listening. What is your opinion of our expected director of football, Dan Ashworth? What can he do for us? And do you expect changes soon in our changing facility? Great question. Drive carefully, Colin.
Really good question. I'll try and... Because it's such a good question, I'll try and give a lengthy answer. It's the expectation of bringing somebody of Dan Ashworth's ilk into Newcastle United will be to grow the football club. He very much fits in with the ethos of this club growing consistently year after year, rather than the big splurges, which is one thing. Look, January was a very unique window for Newcastle United. They may well have spent more money in January than they might spend in another window. For example, in the summer, they are going to go about this sustainably. They want to be. Wants to be a consistent build, and sustainable build towards Newcastle United becoming a superpower in English football. And they understand that doesn't happen overnight. They're not daft people. And I get why people might think that January will be the norm. I suspect it won't be. I suspect that the kind of money and outlay on the type of players that they put in January won't happen consistently at Newcastle United. I think you might see more Bruno Guimaraes type signings, but you might only see one or two of those. I think the idea is that you consistently keep adding bits and bobs. Dan Ashworth will have a big part in that. Dan Ashworth will not only look after the recruitment side of things, make sure the right people are in the right jobs are on that side of things. Also look at the academy. The training facilities is a big part of that. There are already been little changes at the training facilities in the last few months. There will be a lot more, and there will be a new training facility built, I would imagine. But that is, again, things that don't happen overnight. They do need somebody in there who's going to overlook that kind of thing and make sure, again, all the right people for the right jobs are in the right positions, and everything gets done in a timely, sustainable manner. And I think Newcastle United will... Look, the way I look at it is, I think it's a massive move, because for a long time, Newcastle United's been regarded as an unprofessional outfit, run on a shoestring with no real layers of football executives. I think that's all going to change, and I think Ashworth's only the start of that, but possibly one of the biggest parts of it as well as a chief executive, which I'm led to believe is also coming to fruition. I don't have any names for you here at NUFC Matters, but I do believe that the club are getting closer to a chief executive appointment as well as Dan Ashworth, which is a really positive step. I get the argument, and I hear lots of people talk about it, about why didn't they get this stuff done first. I think, again, it ties into the idea of January being such a unique window. I don't really think anybody believed. I think everybody thought when they took over, I didn't think they thought it would be so bad in January. I thought that maybe they thought they'd pull away a little bit and wouldn't be in such a mess. It didn't turn out that way. Look, you can, best laid plans and all that kind of thing. And they thought they'd be in a different position. It meant that January basically became a firefighting window. And I think a lot of the focus of the likes of Amanda, Mirdad, Jamie Rubin in particular, has been on making sure that Eddie Howe's got the strongest hand possible to keep this club in this division. Because staying in this division unlocks doors to a really bright future for Newcastle United, a one where relegation battles on a consistent basis, which is effectively what we've had since we joined the Premier League again, since the last promotion, will become no more. Newcastle United will build, and they'll slowly start creeping up that table. How quickly they creep up that table, I'm not sure. It can happen very quickly, as you see with West Ham. You have a good window, pull a good group together and change a manager, and suddenly you can jump from being 16th to 5th in the division. It can happen as quickly as that, or it can be a consistent thing where you move slowly up the division. Dan Ashworth, again, is going to play a huge part in that, huge part in the building of foundations at this football club, not only on the recruitment academy side, but the executive side as well. And he's somebody that almost in a weird kind of way, the Ashworth appointment takes away. And there's always critics. Look, we've seen the knives. The knives continue to get sharpened from within the media, national media, local media, plenty of pressure groups, fans, our own fans even. There are knives all ready to be sharpened, no matter what decision that these new owners take. I find it all really remarkable. I understand some of it from agenda-driven people in the national media, for example, who just didn't want this deal, don't like the owners, and that's totally okay. I'm fine. You can say that. But I think I don't understand some of the knife sharpening within the fan base at times. I don't understand it. We're living in a Newcastle world that was a dream, but 6 months ago, a dream where they've went and outspent anybody in Europe. Yes, they've overspent for a couple of players. They know that as well. And we're appointing potentially the best British club building director of football you could possibly go and get in Dan Ashworth. Yes, he's going to have that garden leave. I've heard various things that his contract might even see him go away at the end of the season potentially before he's able to join Newcastle United. I haven't had official confirmation on that, but there has been sort of words on the rumour mill that this garden leave thing might last some time. I hope it doesn't. It'd be nice to get him in there and get him working and pushing towards the summer, which the summer could be transformative. Newcastle United could go and sign 2 or 3 more Bruno Guimaraes, and then suddenly Newcastle United become a force in the Premier League. I think that's probably the way things will go forward. Ashworth's going to be key to that. He's going to be bringing in plans, strategies that didn't exist at Newcastle United when you had, had been described by people in and around the football club, when you had the T-boy doing the negotiations, who was told by somebody much higher up the food chain than him, the owner in particular, go and do that deal, but make sure you don't actually do the deal. Just make it look like you're doing it. There's none of that now. We've got a football club that wants to sign footballers, wants to sign good ones, and wants progression. That's surely something everybody can get behind. I'm in a really positive place with Newcastle United. Ring me in the morning after a 3-0 defeat of Everton tonight, and I might not be in that positive place. But that's the fragility of football in general. Like it is so fluid. Your mood can change in a heartbeat. But yeah, I'm in a really positive place, and I think the Ashworth thing is a really positive step. There might be a lot of people out there who don't know a whole lot about them, but I don't think they really could have gone and got anybody better. You just have to have a little look for yourselves at the England DNA project and the way that it was built at the FA when he was one of the chief formulators of that plan. But the St George's Park, the success we've seen there, the coaching framework. We've seen the likes of Cooper and others who've gone through that framework and are fantastic. You've seen the players, the levels, not just it's almost like an England academy now, whereby there's people coming through at 17s and 18s and 19s who've got clear pathways to the England first team, and almost the club stuff becomes a separate thing. It had to be have to be playing for Chelsea to get in the England team. Well, no, you're seeing kids say, well, no, I'm gonna go and play in France. I'm gonna go and play in Germany. You know, your Sanchos, your Bellinghams, and others. There is a clear pathway, and I think England's become, from being an afterthought for a lot of these footballers, where in the growth of the English Premier League, where it was all about playing for a club. It's a lot of this the stuff is playing for England now, and Ashworth had a lot of say and a lot of influence in the formative years of that England DNA project, and did a fantastic job. You speak to anybody who knows anything about West Brom, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing, that he still hasn't been replaced. The infrastructure that he put in place there, the plans and the strategy, disappeared with him, and West Brom's never been the same since. And I think there's a lot of people at Brighton, which is why they fought so hard to keep him, fear the same thing, that when he leaves, that they're going to have issues with a strategy and things that they've built, because he takes all that with him, and he'll bring that in Newcastle United and implement it on a blank sheet of paper, a sheet of paper that hasn't been drawn on for 15 years. So I think it's tremendous. I'm really excited about Dan Ashworth coming to Newcastle United, and I would advise people to do a little bit of reading around it themselves if they haven't already, and they'll get excited too, to see what kind of expertise, planning, and strategy that he'll bring to Newcastle United when there has been none. And we know that. We know there's been no planning and strategy behind the scenes, apart from maybe a little bit of, can we put some money into the academy and sell these kids on for more money, which was Ashley's plan maybe 3-4 years into his tenure at Newcastle United. Didn't work, didn't really get the returns he wanted, so just gave up on that idea. But I'm really excited, and I think a lot of other people will be too when they do a little bit of reading around it.
Yep, okay. Paul Tweedy's taking us into tonight's game. He says, morning, Steve. Can you ask Liam how many of the new signings he think will start against Everton?
I don't know. I don't have any information particularly on it, but I suspect that you'll see, if he means the 3 new ones, I assume he means Target, Burn, and Guimaraes. I would say, I think all 3 will start, personally. I didn't think it sounded like Dan Burn was that bad an injury from listening to Eddie Howe yesterday. A toe infection, an infection in his toe. It could be a bad one. It might be one that keeps him out. It might not. So we'll wait and see. I think he did hint at maybe easing Guimaraes in, but there's only 17 games left. I think you bring a really quality footballer into the club, and Newcastle need points now. So I would imagine he'll be very tempted to just put him in there. Having seen him on, I think he trained with the team Friday, a couple more training sessions since. If he's as good as everybody suggests he is, and as good as he looked in France, then I think we'll see him in the team, given the numbers and quality that Newcastle United have in that midfield. I think it'd be mad not to. And Target starts without doubt. Paul Dummett hasn't trained at all since Leeds. They've obviously left Jamal Lewis outside of that 25, and Matt Ritchie's injured. So Matt Target is the one absolute guarantee, and I would imagine the other 2 will too.
Yeah, okay. And now we've got, we're hedging towards 200 watching live. I just want to say how disgusted I was at last night's show, where someone came on and made a racial slur against Pete, one of our presenters, rightly condemned by him and by Holly. I have had to put a tweet out onto my Twitter account as well. Somebody came on, Liam, and we put the link up. It's a trusting process. You put the link up for somebody to come onto the show. What people won't know is, in the back of the system, you and I can swap a message in the private chat. Well, it appears somebody's come in into the private chat, blanked their face out. There's no face in there, apparently, according to Holly, and they've sent a racist message in the private chat. There was also something in the live chat, apparently. I mean, what is the world coming to when somebody does that? I really, really, really do not know. I've watched last night's show again. I cannot see anything in the live chat. So whether that's because the person has been deleted and blocked by the guys last night. Maybe that takes it out of the live chat. I don't know. But if anybody out there who was watching last night's show has information, Tom Dixon, I know you watch every show. If you do know anybody, if you have any information on who that was, what the name was, etc., inbox me privately, please. Don't put it all over social media, and then I can take a look at it and see if there's any way that we can catch the culprit and hand the information over to the authorities, because that is not acceptable on my platform. It's not acceptable on any platform. We condemn racism at NUFC Matters, and for me, that is bang out of order. So please let me know who it was if anybody can help with that. I've asked Holly, I've asked Dave, and unfortunately, Pete Davey, and unfortunately, they don't know who it was. But if anybody's got any information, please send it over to me anonymously if you must do, and let's try and clear this up. But let's stamp racism out across social media and across all these YouTube shows. There's no need for it.
It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous how anybody would come in and think that that's acceptable behaviour in any platform.
Yeah,
discriminate against anybody for the colour of their skin, their background, where they may be from, and it's just absolutely ludicrous.
Absolutely disgusting, mate.
And what a great guy as well. One of the best guys around. Pete.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the most highly respected podcasters in the Newcastle stratosphere, really, Pete. You know what I mean? And he's a lovely guy to boot. I've met him many times. I'm meeting him again when he's up for the Villa game. Nobody deserves that at all. And you're not welcome on this channel. And if I find out who it was, woe betide you. Put it that way. Okay, that is that out of the way. Lots of questions on Twitter, so I will try and get through a few of them in the next 10 minutes before we revert back to the chat. Rich Joblin says, hi, gents. A question for both, really. What position do you feel St. Maximum is at his most effective for us? Has games where he's so poor and we can't afford to carry him. Not sure why he's so inconsistent. Key player for us at the top end of the pitch with Wilson out. Now, for me, I think Howe's got it right. I think playing him on the wing is probably his best position. That's whether we can keep him on over that side is another question. I think the inconsistency comes, my personal opinion is, because he's had to carry the responsibility of being the key player in games. And I think inconsistency comes with that. And I think his head goes down when he gets kicked and booted out of a game. Stats don't show that he's one of the most attacked players, which I always find bizarre, but he certainly gets his fair share of free kicks not given, and he's rolling around on the pitch up, and he just gets played out of games like that, I think. But yeah, I think playing him on the wing is his best position. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'd like to see us get more out of Willock with the signings that we've brought in, and really, we need to see these players who were brought in who are very, very good at crossing the ball. We need to see Wood, having many opportunities created for him over the next few weeks to give us a chance of getting out of this mess. Liam, what do you think?
St. Maximin's been one of the biggest riddles of the season, really, hasn't he? Started really positively, drifted out for long periods. Tonight's the type of game where I think you can get at their back line. I really do. But it's been games like this where you've needed him to do that, where he's kind of struggled. I do think there's a lot of weight of expectation on him. I think he does carry a lot of that. But I think he's probably the nature of the player that he is. He is inconsistent and will continue to be. Newcastle need him. So whatever you think of his inconsistencies, they need him in this team. He's a potential match winner. I just think Eddie Howe has to be clever about how he uses him. I do slightly disagree with you, Steve. I always find when he plays on the left, sometimes he's asked to do a little bit too much defensive work. Those often go missing when that defensive work's needed. But can really, it's when you see him running at a fullback on that left-hand side, you can see the fear in the opposition player, and they always double up, and it creates spaces elsewhere. It's, can he use that to his strengths? Can he get the ball away quicker? Can he deliver balls at the right time into other players? Because that's a part of his game that he maybe needs to improve on. I like him. I do like him. But I think he's equally as frustrating as he is positive in this team. Newcastle need him. We've effectively been resigned to the idea that Chris Wood is now going to lead the line for the next, probably, it's going to be largely for this season, to the end of the season. Chris Wood's going to be the main striker. And that brings with it its own challenges. They're going to have to leave him not so isolated as what they have in the last couple of games.
Play to his strengths.
Yeah, key point you made there. Well, look, they've signed 2 fullbacks who in the window who deliver crosses, who can put quality into the box. So, I've said all along that with St Maximin, I quite like it when he plays in a 2 up front with somebody. When he's given that little bit more freedom, doesn't have to do much of the tracking and dropping in, can just pop up in pockets of space. And often when the ball transitions from opposition to Newcastle and there's the ball won at reasonable areas, which Joe Linton's quite good at winning the ball quite high up. Alan St Maximin is where you want him to be. He's in that final third already without having to break from his own half. So I quite like him in it too, but he's one of those sort of enigmatic figures who doesn't really have a position, I would say. Doesn't really have an absolute fit in a team. I just hope the lad he's going to carry the goal scoring burden. So he's going to have to go and get, I don't know how many he's got this season, maybe 3, 4, 5 goals this season. He's probably going to have to go and double that. He's going to have to go and get towards double figures this season if Newcastle United are really to stay up and pull themselves away from this. And you mentioned Joe Willock, which is a really good point. We probably saw that you were at Leeds. I was there as well. Probably seen the best performance from Joe Willock in that second half at Ellen Road. He was given a lot of space, as Leeds do. The game became very open in the second half, and he ran into spaces and caused havoc for their backline. I'd like to see him do a little bit more of that. It helped him that the game was wide open. But he did that last season when the game wasn't wide open. Even breaking the likes of the goal at Fulham, which was very fortuitous, but breaking from deep, picking the ball up 10 yards outside his own box and breaking forward. I think it'd be interesting to see what the midfield dynamic will be with Bruno Guimaraes in the team or pushing for a place in the team. Because it looks as though in that 3, if he sticks with the same formation, it would be Shelvey's position he may play. He could also play at Willock's side on the right-hand side as a player breaking forward, as a 6 or an 8. Could play either of those kind of positions. So I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. I think it'll be one of those, if Guimaraes comes in, it'll probably be Willock, I would imagine, who drops out the side. Because Joe Linton's been in such good form that I don't imagine he would take him out the side. Gives you that attacking threat. The ability to close down and win the ball high up is quite. His closing down from midfield is very Mo Diarmi like. You know how he closes the gaps down quite quickly and gets in with the tackle and wins the ball high up for Newcastle United. So I've been really impressed with Joe Linton, and it'd be nice to see what kind of mix that Eddie Howe goes with moving forward. But I would guess, if I had to, that I would say Shelvey will probably retain his place in the side from that passing ability, with a bit more legs from Guimaraes and Joe Linton, or Willock. I would imagine that would be the choice that he has to make. It'll be Joe Linton or Willock.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, that's for certain. Most anticipated team sheet in the season so far. I mean, Ian Hull on Twitter asked if we thought Bruno would play. We've already covered that, really.
I think he will. But it's fair to say that Eddie Howe was cautious in his press conference. He made it clear that, do you have to? Although it was a leading question, he was asked a question with regards, do you have to ease these players in? And he talked about haven't eased them in. So that doesn't necessarily mean it was something he was going to talk about immediately. I think it's exciting. It's really exciting to have these kind of players. And the question you've always got to ask is, look, did they have a perfect window? Of course they didn't. I think I've said on here before, I think they did a 70% job. But it's probably, it's 70% more of a job than probably would have been done under the previous regime. So people say you shouldn't judge your standards by what went before, but it's okay to actually think like we are so much better off than what we would have been. I think it's quite relevant and recent to say that we're in a positive place, and just think of the excitement. When has there been? It's every other week now. I think we're excited about something in Newcastle United, and we were starved of anything. We were getting excited about Joe Linton having a good game. Like that was like the positive that we'd taken from at the end of 15 years of Mike Ashley. The odd Alan St Maximin flash. We built them up to being Kylian Mbappe. We built them up to be the best player on the planet because he was the only player that showed anything in Newcastle United. True. These kind of players, the Alan St Maximins now, are going to be consistent. There's going to be levels of that level of quality and even better coming into Newcastle United over the next few years. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, because I am.
Few people asking if we can change the 25-man squad.
No.
We can't. I didn't think we could. So Ian Hull's question is his second question. He said he didn't want to be greedy, but he did have another one. Do you think a centre forward from the youth squad should be given a shout now in the light of what the situation is with Wilson, for example, Dylan Stevenson from the under-23s? So I mean, you can't change it, and that was the problem with COVID, wasn't it? When people were struggling, that's the reason the games were called off.
Yeah, so there is players in the 23s who can be used, of course, because they're under the agreed age limit. Which is under the age of 21 by a certain date. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's in the Premier League rules if anybody's keen enough to look that over. But what I would say is it's absolute. Now, I've seen the rumours myself going around online. It's absolute that Newcastle United's 25-man squad that was named last Thursday, I think, is the squad that will see this club through. I said it to social media, I think on Tuesday morning after the end of the window as well, with people speculating, will we go and get Diego Costa? I said straight away, this is the squad that will see Newcastle United through. They're not of a mind to go and sign free transfers. They've gone to get a certain level of players. They don't believe they tried. They didn't get certain players. They're not going to go out and sign free transfers. And even if they did now, you couldn't play unless, and the caveat to that is, the player was under the age of 21 and unattached at the moment when the window closed. So you could do that, but it isn't going to happen. I mean, anybody like keeping this idea and this sort of flame alive that there's going to be more new players before the end of the season, it just isn't going to happen.
Okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a think about what your team's going to be tonight, and we'll do that towards the last 15 minutes of the show. Okay, that's Twitter's questions tackled. Tom Dixon, he was asking a similar question about the 25-man squad. So obviously only under 23s can be used. Roger says he's nervous for the game. I think most of us are. I think we are all nervous excitement, I would say.
Yeah.
Paul says Wilson's in the same boat as Hayden, was injury-wise, and Hayden was left out of the 25-man squad. All it takes now is for Wilson to have a small setback, and he will be out for the season. Yeah, there's a lot of people down about that whole Wilson situation.
Well, listen though, what's the solution to that then, Paul? I'll throw it back out there. Come back with another comment. You roll the dice. They're rolling the dice on Wilson, hoping that he will come back and have an impact for the final few games of the season. And that's absolutely fine. What would be the point in rolling the dice on Hayden? What do you gain in the final few games of the season if a Hayden comes back? It's not the same. It is worth a roll of the dice with Wilson, in my opinion.
Yeah, morning, fellas. The new owners have done some cracking business in January transfer window, but we are still very exposed up front for lack of goals. Do you think we will score enough goals? It's up to people to step up to the plate, isn't it, and do the bit in midfield.
Before, yeah. Without Wilson, you need St. Maximin to go and double his tally this season. You probably need a few more goals from midfield. But I'm hoping that this Newcastle United won't have to score as many goals in the second half of the season as it did in the first to even get close to getting results. I know they haven't scored a lot of goals, but I'm hoping that goals against doesn't continue growing the way it has, because they've got two better fullbacks protecting those centre halves, arguably a better centre half coming in, although he's better playing in a 3 than a 2. And a little bit of protection with Bruno in there. So I'm hopeful that that defensive unit, when it gets rolling, won't be quite as open, even with the lack of top level centre half signing.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, the next comment is how playing mind games on Bruno and Dan Burn. It's possible, Josh. It's what happens in the modern game. A toe injury, really. I played with broken toes.
An infected toe was what it was described as yesterday.
Yeah, he's keeping Lampard guessing, which is what you want your manager to do. Lots of people saying, do you think he'll play? Of course he will. I played with broken toes on a Sunday morning, man, for God's sake. Bit of puss in your toe, just pop it. I'd rather buy 2 to 3 players per window and build slowly rather than go gung-ho and make a right mess of things. Good point. Graham Wilson says, do you think the PIF will eventually take Newcastle to a new ground? Financial fair play, money increase, etc. I think St James is limited for expansion. Where do you think it could be? If so, they could do so much at the ground. I don't think they're going to want to go down that route of changing and moving from St James's, Liam. Do you?
I think that's probably one of the... Look, I think... With growth will come the opportunity for expansion, but I still think we're a good few years away from that kind of talk, personally. That's not from any information that I've got. I just using common sense, really. And what I would say with the financial fair play, as a fan, I wouldn't even worry about it. I wouldn't worry about the financial fair play. These guys who are running this football club aren't daft. They're very, very clever and very astute. The structuring of the deals in particular that they did in January, Bruno and others, skirt around the immediate worries of FFP and take into consideration that revenues will grow at Newcastle United consistently over the next few years when those payments are staggered over. So there's some clever accounting going on at Newcastle United at the moment, as we've all seen. I wouldn't worry about FFP. I think they'll find ways and means to get around it. I don't believe. And look, you might play this back in 5 years' time when Newcastle are crippled like Everton with FFP issues, but I just don't see them getting themselves in that same position. Not the way that they've gone about their business early doors anyway.
Okay, time for the ad break. Thanks to all our sponsors. First up, Spider VPN for all your internet security. Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. They come up at the top of the Google network search. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email enquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go. Waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245 and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Arcot Interiors, you can Google them and they come up at the top of the search list also. You can also find them on Heaton Road and they are currently hiring and looking for fitters. So contact Arcot Interiors if you are available to help them with that particular trade. qtechshop.co.uk are the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website. Jab Signature, you can find them at jabsignature.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all of our video editing. And thank you to newworkwear.com, the specialist in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, for providing me with my new jacket. And if you want to subscribe to the show, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week and we do some true crime stuff as well. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, click share to your social media and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to leave a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify and other podcast providers. If you put your phone over this QR code, it will take you straight to our website and you become a Newcastle NUFC Matters member. You get a cup, you get a pen, you get a scarf and entered into our monthly draw where you can win some fantastic prizes. We also do live events and each pre-match and post-match you can find us at the Dog and Parrot, and Super Mac gives us a talk about the game ahead. There is good beer and there is good music and there is a pool table and kids are welcome. So get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot each match day in Newcastle City Centre. We also support the food bank on this channel, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You can find the matchday bucket, which is operational 365 days of the year, and you can make a virtual deposit. If you want to find us on Facebook, then just search NUFC Matters. We have a page and a group. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, search Steve Wraith. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, search @SteveWraith. Okay, Jason Richardson. Hi, gents. Do you think Eddie Howe is under more pressure to get improved performance following the January transfer window, or will he be given time regardless of where we finish this season? It's a conversation I had in the gym this morning. Somebody saying if we go down, do you think Howe will get a chance to come back up? I mean, he's got a two and a half year contract. I think Howe is the good short-term appointment. I think if we stay up, he gets the chance to progress. I think if we go down, he gets the chance to come back up, Liam.
It's a really interesting point. I know I've seen a lot of people talking about it on social media. Does the pressure increase with the backing that he's had in the January window? I think they feel like he's the right man for the job at the moment. And I think that's all you can judge it on, really. I think a lot will depend. There's a lot of unknowns. If Newcastle United are no better in terms of results over the next 11 games, they'll not be far off being relegated. So I think it's a really tough one to say. I think it's too early to know what will happen moving forward. I think giving a guy a job in the first week in November is more than enough time to keep the team up. And I think if there hasn't been any notable upturn by towards the end of the season, I think I wouldn't rule out a change personally, but I don't. That's not from anything that I've heard. That's again just using my own opinion. The what I have heard is that they seem reasonably happy with what's gone before. Look, he's a really professional guy. You just have to listen to him in his press conferences. He's not a media dream. He isn't offering or saying that everybody should get a slap or anything like that. Like, where every other week there's a just an absolute loony moment whereby you can get loads of quotes and out of it, but he's professional and he's astute and he sounds like he's a very, very hard worker, puts the graft in behind the scenes, which is respectable, and I think they respect that. So I don't think there's any clamour for change. But again, I think there's so many variables and so much is up in the air. If Newcastle United go on, consistently poor between now and April, then I think he would himself accept that a change could be in the offing.
Yeah, let's hope so. There was a question there about Fraser, and it's a good one. Right. Where is it? John Askew always asks a good question. Is there a danger Fraser will be frozen out? Personally, I hope not. He's capable of supplying a decent ball into the box, and he has a good attitude. Yeah, I mean, look, he's been a revelation since Howe came in. I think a lot of us were expecting him to go the other way, especially with the way that he left Bournemouth and, wasn't getting a game, etc. But yeah, I mean, is there a danger Fraser will get thrown out, or do you think he's in part of Howe's plans?
I think the continued success of Ryan Fraser depends a lot on the formation that Eddie Howe uses. If he's going to, obviously we know that he sticks with it. He wants the 3 in midfield, which is fair enough. It just depends whether he plays a 5 or a 4. If he plays a 4 at the back, then I think Ryan Fraser is in on the right-hand side every week. I think if he plays a 5 at the back and plays the extra centre-half, I think it's probably Ryan Fraser who drops out of the team. So I think we'll know a lot about what he wants to play moving forward tonight. I think. Do you change the whole team to fit Dan Burn into his best position? That's basically what we're looking at, aren't we? Does he play a 5, which would get the best out of a Dan Burn on the left hand side of that 3? Or has he seen enough of Burn in a 4, which I think, and please come and correct me if I'm wrong, when he played in a 4 for Brighton, he played more on the left as the left back for Brighton than he did as one of the central defenders. He's a centre half, so he should be able to play in a 2, but you know how it is. And, we've seen Fabian Shed isn't always best in a 4. It tends to suit him as a 5. A lot depends on the formation. I'm pleasantly surprised with Ryan Fraser's upturn in fortunes. The signs were there when he basically turned his back on his country. Look, he hasn't been consistently getting a game for Scotland anyway. He's been in and out of that team under Steve Clarke, but really showed his commitment and maybe felt like he had to do that, given the way that the Bournemouth spell ended under Eddie Howe. Because there was bad blood there. I know Eddie Howe painted it over, but there wasn't a good feeling in that squad, the way that Ryan Fraser went on towards the end. But we haven't seen any of that at Newcastle. He struggled with injuries. I think I've said this before, on here, but I think he kicked himself. I think he did himself in, really, with that not wanting or not going back to Bournemouth after the lockdown, the first COVID-affected Premier League season. It meant he missed so much training, so much game time, and was playing catch-up. Didn't sign for Newcastle till later on in that summer window and was training by himself down at Bournemouth. And ask any professional footballer. We had Lee Clark on here about 6 months ago, didn't we? Where we talked about this and from a professional footballer. If you miss a pre-season and you don't do a proper one, you never catch up. You never catch up that season. You pick up more injuries. You're not quite as fit. It's harder to get fit in a season than it is to get fit when you're purely committed to doing that in a pre-season. And I think Fraser maybe picked up more injuries than he should have over that period. He hasn't picked up as many recently. And that's interesting because he did a proper pre-season and he's done a proper season. So Fraser's been there's been few positives this season, but Fraser, I would say, under Howe has been one of those. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying seeing him in this team. I think it works really well. He does a lot of good defensive work. And I think him and Trippier on the right-hand side work really well together.
Yeah, interesting question this. I guess it depends which division we're in. Shane Mawson says, how many of the possible starting 11 will be here next season?
So let's just let's start that. Let's caveat that, Steve. And Newcastle won't go down. Let's say they stay up. How many do I think will be in this team? I think Trippier is a long-term signing. I think, long-term, a 31-year-old. How long-term can he be? But I think he's a medium-term. Then, for the next few years, he'll be a key part of this team. Bruno will be a key part of this team. Beyond that, how many? I think Alan St. Maximin has got the ability to be a key part of this team. Absolutely. I think central defenders, I think there's few there that are going to stay in this team consistently. John Joe Shelvey, again, has the ability to be part of this team for the next few years, even given his age. Will he do that, though? We always know at Newcastle United, he drifts in and he'll have 2 or 3 good games where you remember how good he can be, and then he'll have 10 to 12 where he's a disaster. So will that change? I'm not sure. I think you'd be lucky if moving forward, medium term over the next 3-4 years, if there's 3 or 4 of them are in the mix. But next season, I would anticipate Newcastle United might sign another 4-5 players in the summer, and most of them will probably be starting players, you'd imagine. I think they'll utilise out of contract players. I think they'll go after the likes of Lingard again, although the soundings from in and around his sort of representatives is that it'll be a move to London that he favours. I think there'll be teams on the continent want him, but I think they'll look at frees. They'll look to sign another, I would say at least another 2 to 3 Grimoire-ish type signings, which just ups the levels massively, hopefully, in certain key positions. And they'll just use their contacts reasonably well. They Eddie Howe and the club got the Trippier deal done fantastically well, and with more time and opportunity in the summer, and more people move in the summer, and clubs are more likely to let them go in the summer. That I think it'll be a positive summer if Newcastle United stay up, and I would think, again, going back to the original question because I waffle on so much, I think if you've got 5 of this team, 5 of this team, maybe 4 or 5, I think that'll probably be about right.
Okay, interesting. Lots of suggestions coming in for the teams. We'll look ahead to that in about 5 minutes' time. Just go through a few more questions and quotes from people. Tom Dixon says, "I think with Wilson now out, I would give Wood and Gale a go. Gale will score goals." I can't see it happening, Tom. I'm afraid Gale just seems to be surplus to requirements for whatever reason. David R says, "Given the lack of depth and options from an attacking perspective, do you lads think that Gale will feature more? I think Supermac is keen to see him up front with Wood. Try Willock first, though, and see how it goes." I can't see Gale getting a game, Liam.
No, and just that last bit, Willock's not a striker. I know everybody sees the player and thinks he's a midfielder. He's just a midfielder who breaks forward. He's not a striker. He's not number 10 either. I think I see a lot of people talking about, say, "Oh, play him just." No, he's not a number 10 either. He just isn't. If he's a number 10, he would have been playing. He would have been, pushing the likes of Emile Smith Rowe and others at Arsenal. He wasn't. He wasn't viewed as that at Arsenal, and he isn't viewed as that here either. He had a very short cameo, I think, at Steve Bruce in that position. Didn't perform well at all because he doesn't know the position. On Dwight Gale, it's just not right. So if you say to me, Stephen said, "Could you transplant that Dwight Gale that came back from injury during the lockdown period, scored 3 or 4 goals at the end of the season, looked a real threat, I think scored on the last day against Liverpool, scored a couple of their goals. If you could take that Dwight Gale and put him in this team, I would be tempted to start him ahead of Chris Wood, because I think he can be found with little balls through. He's a fox in the box. He gets on the end of things. But this Dwight Gale, the one that we've seen for the last 2 years, not a chance. Not a chance. He doesn't get close. And that's with Chris Wood looking isolated and forlorn largely in the last 2 games. I just don't think Dwight Gale is even getting close. And look, how many managers and how many people, that's 3 now, including the Graham Jones spell, which went on longer than anybody thought. Who's given Dwight Gale a chance? Nobody's given him a chance. It's not right. The guy needs to go. And I think he would have been probably, if they'd managed to do the business that they wanted, he was top of the list to go in January. But because of the Wilson injury and the business up front was, they didn't sign any of the strikers on that original list, that he had to stay. He had to stay. They were stuck in a circumstance. And I would love to see Dwight Gale come and prove me wrong. I'd love to see him get a chance and be the Dwight Gale that's in there, I know he's a little bit older, but there is a Dwight Gale in there. I mean, again, I think we were both at the game of pre-season. That Norwich game was like a throwback 2 years. He played in pre-season against Norwich just before the start of the season and was tremendous. Scored a lovely goal, really lively. But every time he's come on the park since or before that, hasn't shown anywhere close to that kind of form.
Okay, Tom Dixon's asking, would you play Wood and Joe Linton up front? Liam's shaking his head.
No, not a chance. Joe Linton is quite effective in the role that he's been playing now. I would be loath to change it. Look, if Wood gets injured, I would be tempted to potentially play Joe Linton back up front. I know that's not a strong position for him. It's definitely not a strong suit, but I think if for me a choice between him and Gale again, it isn't really a contest because I see a lad who is fighting for the shirt, a lad who wants to be playing, who his attitude is absolutely spot on, compared with a lad who is flattered to deceive for about 3 years now at Newcastle United. It's a no-brainer for me. I'm picking Joe Linton ahead of Dwight Gale, even though I know that Dwight Gale is a better striker, but he hasn't been a better striker. He hasn't been a good striker for Newcastle United for years now, and it's a shame because I can imagine he would go to the Championship again and probably go and bang in 20 goals for somebody when he gets the opportunity, which he will in the summer. He whatever happens, he'll be away in the summer, I would imagine. Even if relegation probably comes our way, I just don't see how he fits in at Newcastle United after what's gone on over the last few years.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Newcastle play Everton tonight, 7:45 kickoff. It's live on BT Sports. Obviously, pre-match, I'll be at the Dog and Parrot with Supermac at 6 o'clock. We won't be doing a post-match tonight. We never do on the nighttime games. Speaking of the media yesterday, Eddie Howe confirmed that Joe Linton is available, but Paul Dummett and Federico Fernandez were unavailable. No real news on Fernandez, it has to be said. Matt Ritchie is still out for the longer term. And in the words of Eddie Howe, it was also downbeat about the likely return, of course, of Callum Wilson, who is only going to be back for the last few games of the season now, which is a devastating blow for Newcastle, it has to be said. Obviously, there's 3 potential debuts tonight. We know Matt Target could play, Bruno Guimaraes could play, and Dan Burn. Burn, as we've already mentioned on the show, though, has a slight toe problem, but he's expected to be okay. As for the visitors, well, they come with a new manager in the dugout in the shape of Frank Lampard. They had a rather comprehensive 4-1 win against Brentford at the FA Cup at the weekend. Fabian Delph and Abdoulaye Doucouré are both out injured, and Ben Godfrey limped off against Brentford at the weekend as well with hamstring trouble, so he won't be featuring tonight. In the transfer window, of course, Everton were competing with us for the names of Donny van de Beek and Dele Alli, in the media at least anyway. They got both of those players in, and they were cup-tied at the weekend. So the other big news from the Everton camp is that Dominic Calvert-Lewin could come into contention for Tuesday. Now, he is a danger. Old boys at Everton, of course, include Salomon Rondon and Andros Townsend. Lampard's last 2 visits to Newcastle were in charge of Chelsea, of course, and he won a game and he lost a game. Anthony Taylor is the referee tonight. He took charge of Newcastle United's defeat at Old Trafford earlier this season. And on VAR, which is often switched off, Chris Kavanagh is in charge of that tonight. Let's hope we don't have any controversial decisions. Okay, give us your team for tonight, Liam.
So I'm probably looking at it and saying I'm not going to change the kind of winning formula in terms of system. I've got no idea if Eddie Howe will do that, but this is purely my opinion. So obviously Dubravka starts is obvious. Trippier and Target will be my fullbacks, and I would play Burn and Shea as my centre halves. That will be my. I'm not sure that's potentially the best centre half partnership moving forward, but that's probably what I'd go with. Just my opinion. Midfield, I would probably go with Joe Linton, Shelvey, and Guimaraes. And then further forward, I would stick with St. Maximin, Wood, and Fraser on the right-hand side. That's probably the team that I would go for. If I see that, I won't be disappointed. I think the only maybe adjustments that you could make to that team, do you play Willock instead of Shelvey? That's a potential. I don't think you'll do that personally. And do you go back to a 5? And as I said before, you probably then, if you go back to a 5 at the back, bring Lascelles in for Fraser, and you play with St Maximin up front with Wood, which would mean he's definitely less isolated. So that's the two options. And if I seen either of those two teams with the 3 with Lascelles in for Fraser, or the usual formation with Guimaraes in that midfield for whoever, if it's for Shelvey or Willock, Longstaff, whoever was in the last game, I think if we see that team out, I won't be disappointed. But I would probably favour we're sticking with the same system, and I'd like to see hopefully Dan Burn come into the central defensive area. I do think having Matt Targett on the left-hand side, although many see hasn't been in the best of form prior to Luca Dean's arrival at Aston Villa, I think a fresh start is a good thing for him. He's definitely wanted and will feel wanted here. And I think he's a good Premier League level left back. So I'm looking forward to seeing him just balance that side up, because centre half was always the big issue. But I've lost count of the amount of times, Steve, that I'd come on this show and complained about balls coming in on Jacob Murphy's side, or particularly Matt Ritchie at the start of the season, his side. I'm hoping that Matt Targett closes that door, as Kieran Trippier has largely done on the right-hand side as well. So hopefully those centre-halves, whoever's picked in that department, even if it is Lascelles and Share because Dan Burn isn't there, will hopefully be a little bit better protected from the flanks and hopefully better protected from the middle with Bruno playing in there.
Yeah, okay. My team isn't massively different, but I'm old-fashioned. I always go for a 4-4-2. This is what I would start with tonight. Dubravka in goal, as you say, it's a given. Trippier, Burn, Lascelles and Targett. And I know people are going to say, Lascelles, how are Steve, man? He's the captain of the team.
Yeah, I get
and
it.
He's not going to drop him. But I think Lascelles plays better with a competent centre-half alongside him. The proof is there in the results. When he's not got the responsibility of leading the line and leading that back four, as well as captaining the team, he does a lot better. And Burn is a leader. Burn is coming here with great pedigree. And, I think that would be a good back four. It's my opinion, though. Across the middle, in the midfield, Fraser on the right, Bruno and Shelvey in the middle, and Joe Linton on the left. That's what I would start with tonight, which gives you Wood up front with ASM off him up front. That would be my 4-4-2 tonight. And I would have, you've got Willock and Murphy who can both come on and change the game.
Yeah.
Impact players with a bit of pace. Everton are going to come gung-ho tonight. They're going to come and have a go. That's what Frank Lampard does. He likes to have a go. We're going to have to, weather a bit of a storm at some point in the game. And I think a 4-4-2 with defenders that can defend, i.e. Trippier, Burn, Targett. I think we've got a chance with that. And that team can be then adapted. You can switch formations. You can go 4-3-3. You can bring in players. But that would be my team. But that, I've got to say that's why I'm going for Lascelles, because I know I'll get attacked for saying, "Whoa, God, Lascelles, how are man?" But that's what I would go for. Paul Oxley says Dubravka, Trippier, Lascelles, Burn, Taggart, ASM, Bruno, Shelvey, Joe Linton, Fraser, Wood. There's not massive differences in most people's teams, Liam. Slightly different formations, etc.
Yeah, it's the same team as what you picked there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think a lot depends. Say if you do have a Rondon start up front, I would actually feel better with Lascelles playing against a Rondon than I probably would a Share. So a lot depends on that. Calvert-Lewin, maybe less so with Lascelles. So yeah, I think a lot depends on who starts at Everton. And as you say, you make a good point that the Frank Lampard sides are confident. They are attacking. I think it could be a good game tonight. And the way I look at it is, if Newcastle United are sitting on Sunday morning having got 4 points from these two games, no matter how they've done it, I think we're in a reasonably positive place. And I think when you start getting towards that, if they did come out on Sunday Sunday night, I know the game's on Sunday. So if we're sitting there on Sunday night and Newcastle are on 19 points, 19s that like in and around 20s where you can start to see the finish line, in my opinion. You almost become within a few games of potentially being safe, because 31, 32 points, I think, this year will get you safe. So you're within the realms of probably another 3 wins almost gets you there. So I think if Newcastle got 4 points by the end of this little mini period this week from 2 home games against middle sides in Everton. I know Everton can be dragged in if we beat them tonight, but they'll probably finish mid-table, as will Aston Villa. 2 home games against sides we can definitely beat at home. 4 points has got to really be the kind of return that we're looking at, I would say, from these games. And I'm reasonably confident that they will get that 4 points. I'm reasonably positive, because I've seen enough. I thought it was a real the attitude shown at Leeds and the ability to see a game out was one that I think I felt like I'd lost, and I think a lot of people did. So I think we take a lot of positives going into this game. It's been, by all accounts, a really good couple of weeks that they've had on the training pitch. I think they probably would like to have got players in a little bit earlier than what they did, but January is January. That's what happens. Somebody there saying, will Ali and Van der Beek play? I would imagine so. But I'm not going to get myself too... Look, they're good footballers. Don't get me wrong. Dele Alli at 21 was probably the best attacking midfielder on the planet. He really was. But has not, under various managers, been able to force his way into the Tottenham side. There's a reason for that. And he might just need a fresh start, as others might need it. It happens. And Donny van der Beek, again, under various managers, 2 managers at Manchester United, has not been even close to forcing his way into a start in Manchester United side. And we've seen the struggles they've had in midfield. We've seen it firsthand this season. So there's reasons why they've gone to Everton. It doesn't necessarily, even though they're good players, doesn't necessarily mean they are going to be instant hits at Everton. It might take them time, so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. Look, you never know how these things will play out. The 2 guys could come in, gel perfectly with that team, give Everton that real attacking impetus from midfield, control a game, Van der Beek. But I don't know. I'm not really fearful of the players they've signed. I'm more excited about what our players can bring to the team. And I think it's shaping up to be quite an exciting night. I get the feeling, like you said, nervousness. I'm nervously excited, yeah. I'm excitedly nervous, whichever way around you want to put it. But I'm quite looking forward to tonight. And I think we'll know a lot more about this team and about what the rest of the future holds. Probably by the end of tonight, and definitely by Sunday night, we'll probably have a good idea about where we're going to end up.
Okay, Liam, where can people find you and your work, mate?
NewcastleWorld.com. Everybody check it out. I'm the editor of Newcastle World, so we cover all things about Newcastle, positive, negative. We'll cover all things culture, all things football, loads of football content on there. So yeah, check it out on all the social channels, on Twitter, Facebook. Give us a follow and interact with us. We like to know what you guys want us to cover, particularly from a Newcastle United perspective. If you think something's not being covered or you want to say, drop me a DM, drop my football reporter, Jordan Cronin. I've mentioned him a few times on here. Drop him a message and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, give it a follow, give us support on the social channels, and thank you everybody out there who's done so already.
Great stuff, mate. As always, great to have you on. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, Liam.
Cheers.